Hi everyone, welcome to session 3 of Python Programming PP101. The first two sessions were covered by Jamie Tosawa and this is his third one. One on Monday, welcome Nirmal, and one on Monday was on the what you call variables and whatever assignments and all. And the second one was on the operations. Our first one was operations and then uh, various kinds of operation or operators is what he described, and the format of how to install and how to operate using the Jupyter notebook. So this is the third session, and I will welcome both Saurabh, Nirmal, and Jamid. Jamid, go ahead. Take floor is yours and proceed. And if there are any questions, please definitely ask at the end of the session, and it can be after the recording stopped or before, whichever way you prefer. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Jamid.
So, hello everyone. I'm Jamit Wasawa, and this is session 03 for PP101 or Python Programming 101. So, in the last session of session 02, we covered the operating precedence, means how Python prioritizes certain operations before and after certain operators. And because of that, we are able to understand how Python uses operations in which order, and hence we can also use operations in the intended manner to get the intended results. Now that was about session 02, and also in session 02 we discussed about the comments and stuff, and we ended the session with comments and why those were important, why documentation is important. So in order to understand how the a piece of code or a program or a software has developed from 0 to 1 and so on. So in this session 3, we will have certain learning objectives. In session 03's learning objectives, the conditional statements, if else statements and elif statements. Then we'll cover loops, which are for and while loops, then the conditional loop statements for continue and break, and then the string, some of the string operations, and with positive and negative indexing, slicing, editing, and finding, etc. So starting with conditional statements, first we have if statements. So what if statement does? It executes a block of code when a particular condition is met true. For only uh, some conditions are met true, it will go on to execute its part of the block of code. So here, as I said, that there is a scenario when if statement can be more easily understand. So let's say Rahul loves to watch movie first day, first show. So let's write a code to know if it's a Friday or not. As in India, movies are released on Fridays. So first we'll look at the syntax of if statement. So if the keyword, and then a condition is made. So some condition and the if statements block of code that is represented by starting of an indented statement or indented block, like the block of code has a type space before it. So the if the if condition is true, this block of code is going to be executed. So for the code, we'll say that because we want to know whether it's Friday today or not, so we are giving the day a variable as Friday, and then we also have a tuple which contains all the 7 days of week. After that, we'll check with the if statement if the variable that we have given for storing the word Friday. If day equals to for checking whether it's Friday or not equals to Friday, and then printing, let's go for a movie because the day is equals to Friday. So this is a simple if statements introduction to it. If now, what if there is a certain another condition that we want to, or another condition or a block of code that we want to execute, that if not this, then this. So similar to if statement, it adds an additional functionality of what happens to if the condition provided is not met and needs an another kind of action to that. So for that we use if else statements. So the if part of the if else statement stays the same, that if some condition and its own block of code. After that block of code, an else statement with the same alignment of if is used with a colon, and then its own block of code that is to be used whenever an if condition is not met and another action is needed. So for this we are going to use the same program that we have used before. The if statement stays the same, but we have added an else block to it. Now the else block says if what will the else block do? If it's not Friday, it's going to print what are the actions to be taken. So when the day is not equal to Friday, it's going to the control is going to the else block, and the else block is going to print it's not Friday yet, and we cannot go for the movie. So it's not Friday yet is the message that is going to be printed while executing the else block. Now the nested if else statements. The nested if else, if we simply state it, and those are nothing but an if else statements within an if else statements and stuff. So from the syntax, you can say that if then a condition or an expression that is to be satisfied in order to execute the if statements block, and within that there can be another condition of if or if else statements, and that are to be met in order to get to a particular result or a particular range of numbers which represents certain kind of result. So let's look at a block of code for grading. So for starting, we are stating a score equals to 85 and grade equals to none. None is a keyword in Python, and if you are trying the code here, make sure that grade is defined in the second line and not in the single line. Then we start with the if statement, and we say for grade A, the marks or the score needed to be more than 90. So first we are checking whether the score is greater than or equal to 90. Then within that, we are stating another condition of 95 for distinction equals to true. If it's not greater than equal to 95, we are going to then else block with distinction equals to false. And the first if blocks else statement will be used in the same alignment of the first if block. So the grade equals to some other grade, and we can use any other grade. And due to space construction restrictions, I've used the print statement side by side, but make sure you don't do that. So basically, it's going for an else statement for some other grade in this scenario. If I want to uh, present another analogy for understanding the if else statements, you can also use some medical medical case where a certain kind of reading of certain situations can mean something, like for high blood pressure, the normal blood pressure range and low blood pressure range. So you can make a program similar to this one for blood pressure, and have a more like grade. You can say for the situation what are the readings. Are the readings normal, low, or high? Now comes the elif statements. The elif statements are mostly used for more than one conditions to be done. So for the syntax, you can see that if there is some a certain kind of condition, and then there is a statement which is to be executed for both if, then else if. So else if is more uh, is shortened to elif. So elif, certain condition, then statement. The same goes for more more statements as well. And in the end, the else statement for the if none of the conditions of the if that the if block started has not met. So for the example, we'll see the same code of grade of the grade and the score. So for the if else statement or the nested if else statement that was present in the last code is the same over here, but we are also using the elif score. Now that elif is used in alignment for the first L first if statement. So the elif score statement starts with the condition score greater than equal to 80. If it's 80, the grade will be B. Then the second for greater than 70, then for C, and greater than 60 for D and F. Or in the end, if none of the conditions are met true for the if block or the elif blocks that we have showcased over here, then the grade will be F. And in the end, we are just printing the score with its grade. Now, to see if the number is negative or in certain kind of range or not. So for the starting, we are using number 42 in order to and see how the block of code works for if elif statements. So first, the if statement is going to check whether the number is smaller than 0 or not. If the number is smaller than 0, then it will print number is negative. But if the number is equals to 0, it's going to print a number is 0. And the second elif statement checks whether number is between 0 to 50. And if it is going to print number is between 1 to 50. This next elif statement checks whether the number is between 50 to 100. Is so the number is basically greater than 50 but smaller than equal to 100. So, and that makes it print number is between 51 and 100. Else the number is greater than 100. So because we are able to check first about 0 and whether the number is negative or not, checking whether number is smaller than 0, and whether the number itself is 0 or not. And So in the else block, in the end, we can write it confidently that the numbers are going, and the number is greater than 100. So to check the we started with the if statements. So for the syntax, the if statement with its condition, then the block of code for if statements if the condition is true. So we used day equals to Friday over here, and we made days of week, and we gave day equals to Friday in order to check whether we can go for the movie or not. And because it was Friday, we are able to go for a movie. Then comes the if else statement with if condition same as starting with if, then its condition and the block of code of for if statement. Then comes the else statement, which is needed to be executed if none of the conditions of the if if block none of the conditions met true for if statements. So it executes the block of code for else statement. So here we use the same analogy of Friday being the first day for show, and then using Friday as the day over here. So let's go for a movie if it's Friday. If the Friday was, if the day was something other than Friday, then it would have printed it's not Friday yet. Then comes the nested if else. Meaning an if else condition within an if statement. So you can see from the way these statements are appearing, how the tabs and the blocks are separated, how the indentations are separating the if statements for its own particular use. And then the else statements, this if statement and this else statement are the same if else statement. And then for this one, it's the same. Okay. So for we used an analogy of a grading system. What would be the grade of for particular marks, or in particular range? What would be the grade and stuff? So the grade, the score or the marks are 85, and the grade is none. Make sure the none is used in this manner, as it's a keyword. Then we start with the if statement. So if score is greater than 90, A score is greater than equal to 95, distinction equals to true. And if both of them doesn't meet, then distinction is equals to false. And and for the final else block, we can say some other grade and print the grade, just in case if you want to print it. Then comes the elif statements. What elif statement does is it instead of using many if else statements, it acts as a replacement of if else and help us define a condition with a single statement over here. Instead of if and else being done separately, a single elif statement is used for many cases that we want to be uh, look after, that we want to look after. So the if condition, its statements, then the elif condition, its statement, and then the else condition. Now within this, a lot of elif conditions can also appear. We'll go further with the same analogy, that if if for some certain grade, certain if for certain grade, certain sorry, if for certain score, a certain grade is used. So in a way, you can also eliminate this piece of code as well. So the if statement with 90 and grade equals to A. But if there is score of 80, the grade is B. And if the score is 70, grade is C, and so on for till F. Now the F becomes the part of the else statement that is present. So what else is doing? It's simply doing it's so what else is doing?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. I'm audible.
Actually, the class is running. Can we talk later?
Okay. Query. I'll. Okay. I'll.
So the else
So, Jamit, who was it?
it was Saurabh.
Saurabh. Okay, okay. Okay, no, but if he has a question, you answer it, no? What's the problem?
Oh, okay, okay. I thought okay,
Yeah.
Saurabh.
Saurabh, what was the problem?
So, one question. Okay. So, on the Jupyter, if I try if so, it is not automatically indentating. So every time I have to press tab and indent while writing the if. So how? It doesn't tell me that this is the intent or if else. So how I control that?
Uh, Mostly the if statements are ended with so let's say just for if statement, not if else. The if statements condition are ended with colon. So if you colon it and enter, press enter, it will auto indent it. Are you able to do that? Can you check it?
Yes. Just okay. I'll try. Just try. Yeah, it is. So moment I enter, it is able to indent. So,
Yes.
uh, right. Okay.
Okay, so that answers your question, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic. Go ahead.
So were you missing the colon or something?
No, actually, I was manually giving the spaces, and through enter, I was going to next line and then tabbing out. So I was not aware that after colon, I have to fit enter, then it will move.
Okay, so it solves.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And also one question: what is
yes.
none? None. So when you say none,
Yeah.
it allocates the null value to the variable or initialize. So if I do print a, which is a none, okay, and see. So is it a, string value? Is it a what kind of what is the
Okay.
data type?
Understand it like let's say for this you are able to see with the screen, right? So grade over here was not used uh, at the starting point of it when we assigned when we created this variable grade. We used it. We used grade in the if statement over here. So if we are not assigning anything over here for a grade, then it will throw us an error. So in such kind of conditions where you are going to use a variable and don't have its value yet, at those kind of time, you can use the keyword none, so that the execution continues without giving you an error.
Okay.
Did you was I able to answer the question?
E- e- Yes. So is it means that it is not giving any data type to the grade variable. It is only
Yes,
just
it's a separate keyword.
Okay, that means it's just defining the variable. So what is the purpose of, so even if I don't define grade is equal to none, it
Yes.
will automatically assign the value grade is equal to a. So what is the, why I should do it when the Python is itself assigning? So if I'm writing score is greater than or equal to 90 and grade is equal to a,
Yes.
so means this statement has no relevance, right? Because grade equal to a will automatically assign the data type of value a to the grade.
Yes, but further we are also changing the value of grades too, right? A, B, C, D, F.
Yeah,
So
but data type can also be changed. So if I can, so I can do that. Let me see. Okay. So if I do see, okay. So shall I share the screen? I have done this, typed this, so I don't know what is the error with the none field.
are you able to share the screen or no?
Yeah, now I am able to. I have resolved that issue. Just so,
Okay.
so here I have done this. Okay, so I'm getting name none is not defined.
Actually, none, the keyword is capital N and then O and E in smaller case.
Okay, so if so it has printed ASDF. Okay, now if I go to print C, so it is printing the value of so it has printed the value of C as 10. Now if I make it less than 0, sorry, is greater than, okay, so it is changing the value data type of setting the data type as per the C. So okay, so now, so how to outscope this now? If I type indentation over here, so it will. So here it is my understanding correct that if I now, even if I don't do it, right? So what my question was, if I don't do it, then
Okay.
also it will work, right? So what is the value add of giving whether I do it is none or not? Anyhow, it is assigning the value of C as per whatever value we are. So when
Yes.
none actually should be used.
So because this program is very simple and we are using it, so like if you have commented the C equals to none value, and directly defining C in the and directly defining C in the if else statements block. So that's okay too, but sometimes a lot it happens that uh, a none keyword is to be used just so that we can flexibly use that variable whenever we want, and like assigning directly to some other variable and stuff. So that is the reason that we use none. Here, the none keyword is not as much useful because the statement is very simple or the program is very simple. but I can get back to you for a more detailed explanation for the none
Okay,
if you
okay,
want.
okay, fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. No worries. So continuing with the elif and its score for we were discussing about the scores and its grade based on its execution with the use of elif statements. So the score is 80, and so certain kind of
Uh,
scores are going to be graded with certain kind of grades. Sorry.
yeah, and screen is not shared. Sorry, I took your screen while
Oh, okay,
sharing.
okay. Sure. Sorry. Thanks. So yeah, we were discussing the elif block with its condition and particular grade assigned to those whenever that condition is met true. And when at the end of the elif statements, an else block is used when none of those conditions are met, and it acts as another condition which or the another block of code that is to be executed when none of these conditions are met true. So because the grades can be A, B, C, and D only, so the only grade left if none of the grades or the marks meet the requirements is F. So for us the score is 85 and grade is B. Now we also used a program for checking whether checking the number and its range. So we used a number equals to 42. Then we checked whether the number is smaller than 0, meaning whether the number is negative or not, equals to 0, and printing the statement for it. And also checking whether number is between 0 to 50 and 50 to 100, and printing the respective statements for them. But in the end, if because we have checked these two conditions of being 0 and negative, and then after that we have moved further, the else statement is going to be writing number is greater than 100, because we have already seen the possibilities of other situations. So now we'll start with loops. So what what are loops? It helps us to make a sequence. Let's say we want to write a program which prints one number 1 to 100. So instead of creating a, a list or a tuple for 1 to 100 and then iterating over them, we can use loops. So let's say we have a list of items to buy from a supermarket. At the supermarket, we reach at every item one by one and buy it. So something similar happens with the for loops as well. An iterable is nothing but a collection like list or tuples, a collection of elements or objects with which we use for traversing or accessing it one at a time. So let's say there is a sequence of number 1 to 7, and if we want to print, then we can use for Then a variable, here we will call it item in a sequence, and print that variable. So every time the for loop is going, what for loop is going to do is pick the first item in the sequence, which is 1 or at index 1. Then it is going to print it, and again the control is going for the for loop, and the for loop will start executing again. So next time, because we have used 1 already, it will go on to the second or the next index, which is 2. So 2 will be printed after 1, and again the control or the execution of control execution will be going to the for loop, because uh, its condition has met, and keep on iterating over the list that we have created called sequence until the last item is printed. So it's printing the numbers 1 to 7 one by one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are printed one by one. So, so what are loops? So in our everyday lives, we tend to repeat a lot of processes without noticing. So in programming, this process of using an initialization, repetition, and an ending condition is called a loop. So in a loop, we perform a process of iteration, which means that it's a repeating task. Like in this one, we perform one item after another with its after printing the previous one. So first we started with 1, then we printed 2 because we already printed 1, and so on till the end of the list. So programming languages like Python implement two types of iteration. One is indefinite, where the number of times of loop executed depends on how many times a condition is met, and definite iteration, where the number of times the loops will be executed in defined in advance, usually based on the collection of size. Like here, we do know how many times the loop or the for loop is going to be executed. So typically, we find these loops being used to iterate a collection of items. This is a form of a definite iteration, since we know how long our collection is in advance is going to be executed in advance, and thus know how many times we need to iterate over the collection of ingredients. So there can be small and short collections. So like there can be short strings, while other collections might be massive, like a range of numbers from 1 to 10 million. And loops give us the ability to masterfully handle both the ends of the spectrum, uh, which is a simple concept, but helps us with a lot of time and makes it easier for us to work with a large amount of data. So first, we'll be using the for loop for printing every element. And first, we'll be simply using the print statements in order to print the elements in the loop, in the list. So there's an A list from 1 to, which contains the numbers 1 to 6. Then we are printing the list with a print statement every time. Now, this becomes a very verbose and very inefficient in a way. So that is the reason, and in such kind of iterations, we use a for statement or a for loop. So for, and the syntax for the for loop is a for, a variable, an in, an iterable, which can be list, tuples, etc. and the block of code that is needed to be executed. So this is a very simple syntax for for. Then for loops are used when we know loop's ending condition. Now keep that in mind, because when we discuss the while loop, we'll know why the for and while loop are different. So we can use the for loop in the same way like for print statements, which we use for printing each and every element. So for num, that we are naming a variable, in a list, which is our list, and then print the name of the variable, print. And so here the name of the variable is num, so now print num, and it will iterate through the list one by one. Then comes a second example for a for loop, and here we are using something new which is called range. We have mentioned it in previous sessions also. So what is range? It is basically, it basically helps us to range a particular range of numbers. So you can see the syntax in the comments, in the comment of it, that we range, and within brackets it takes three arguments, but which is start, end, or a step and stride. Now, if you don't assign the step or stride to it, it will by default take one. So here, as you can see, that we are using range with 1 and 11. So 1 is the starting point, which will be included, but as it is ending at 11, the number 11 won't be included. The range will stop before number 11 or before the ending point. So the points are not included. And then the step and stride, step or stride are nothing but a value that is to be skipped. So by default it's 1, so it will go 1 2 3 4. But let's say we kept it 2, then it will skip a second number. So instead of 1 2, it will go to 1 and 3 and then 5 and so on. So that is what stride is. It skips the amount of value that you have given to it. So, any guesses? I hope you are able to understand that what this for loop does with its use of range, and you are able to guess the output to it. So, using the same program, that example that we have used to understand for over here with the help of range. So basically what it's going to do is print the number 1 to 11, 1 to 10. And yeah, it's going to print the number from 1 to 10. So the similar kind of example is over here. So for I in range 1 to 21 and with a stride of 2 and print. And I hope you are able to guess the output to this small piece of code. So and this will be the output to it. As you can see that it started with 1 and basically all the odd numbers before 21. And because the range does not count the ending point, it stopped at 19 instead of 21. So this time we are using the range function with a negative stride. So we are using the for I in range 10, 0, and -1. So what the if anyone is able to try it right now, can can you say what it does? What the negative stride means and what it does?
It will print from starting from 10 up to 0.
Yes, yes. So that's exactly what Saurabh said. That the negative stride helps us to reverse execute the things in reverse. But if you are writing the start and end point, here the start and end point, because of the negative stride is -1, it's a 10 and 0. But if you write 0, 10, and then -1, then it will not print anything uh, that we intended it to be. It's not going to make any sense to it, because we need to go small to higher, higher to lower value for it. So as Saurabh said, this is the same. This is the execution of the range with a negative stride. It it prints from 10 to 1 in the reverse order. So for all this for loop, for the very simple explanation of for loop, it's and it becomes easier to for us to understand. But what if we want to use it in the for loop for a real life scenario? So for that, we are using this program. So let's say there is a current population of a town, which is 10,000. Now the population of the town is increasing at the rate of 10% per year. You have to write a program to find out the population at the end of each of the last 10 years. Now it can contain some, you can try the program on your own as well, but we'll be discussing its solution right now. So our current population is at 10,000, which will be saving in the variable current pop. And then using the for loop, so our for loop starts with for I in range 10 to 0 and -1, where we print the I and the current population, and also divide the current population with 1.1 because of the rate of on the for calculating the increasing rate of 10% per year. So because after using this for loop, we are able to estimate what would be the population 10 years prior to what was in present. So in the first, it was 4240 point something. And also, you can see that there are two comments beside the for loop. The first comment is regarding the formatting of strings. So you can try out this different kind of format to print the statement instead of what we have been using. So the introduction to the loops, we started with for loops for any item. Item is a single element, or for any variable. Here we are naming the variable item, and then using, and that variable represents every single part or every single element in the iterable. So for any single iterable in the iterable itself, print this variable. So that is what it's doing. So starting with 1, and it's printed the whole list. Now using the range function, we used 1 to 11 for I, printed I, and got the output of 1 to 10, where for default stride is 1, but if not given, by default it's 1, but if we give it, then then it will skip the iterables in that manner. Then comes the example with stride. So we used 1 to 21 and then printed it. So you can see it basically, because we have given 2, so basically we are printing the odd numbers from 1 to 21, excluding 21. This piece will always be excluded. So please keep that in mind while using the range functions. Then comes a small example for a negative stride. So negative stride help us to print the letters from higher to lower. Then the program that we just discussed for a real life scenario to understand how we can practically use for loops. So for I in range, then comes 10, 0, and the stride of -1. Then comes a calculation of 10 per year. So because of that, we are able to get the estimated population of 10 years prior to what would be the population. So it's this value. So similar to for loop, there is also a while loop. So while loop is used to repeatedly execute a block of code as long as a certain condition is met true. So for syntax of the while loop, while certain condition or expression that is to be satisfied, in order for to keep on executing the block of code until that block of code is true. So let's say count equals to 1, and while count is smaller than or equal to 5, print count while also incrementing the value of count. So count plus equals to 1, or which is equivalent to count equals to count plus 1. So it will print the value till it's smaller than or equal to 5. So now let's use the while loop for calculation of a factorial. So n equals to 5 and factorial equals to 1. So while n is greater than 0, factorial into equals to n, and decrementation of the value of n, because that's what we will be using in order to multiply and find the factorial further, and then print the factorial number in the end. Or let's say here we used in the solution, in the first solution we used a definite number of n equals to 5, which is hard coded. But what if you want to ask a user which numbers factorial do you want? So for that we'll be using a variable Or let me start it this way. Let's ask the user which numbers factorial the user wants. So we are asking that, and we are asking the user to give us a number. In Python, you can ask a user to give us an input using an input function. So input, and within the its braces, you can ask the string which which will be saved into a variable n. Here n, but you can give it any different variable. Now the reason that we are using an int function which is wrapped around the input statement is because we want the number, we want it to be a number and we want it to be an integer. So the input that we are getting from the user will be converted into an integer and saved into the variable n. Now that n can be used to calculate the factorial of the number that is given by the user. The execution or the calculation of the factorial is the same as we have used in solution 1, that for factorial we are equating it to 1 and then using the while loop n greater than equals to 0, greater than 0, then calculation of factorial and decrementing the value of n and printing the value of the factorial. So the while loop over here, you can see that it's a while loop and its syntax. Now for the first time, we used while loop simply to print simple numbers. So for the starting with the count of 1 and incrementing it until the condition of smaller than equal to 5 is met. So we started the execution with 1, printed 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, and it stopped at 5 because we give this condition. Then comes the calculation of the factorial with the value n equals to 5. We calculated the factorial, decremented its value, and in the end, outside the while loop, we printed the value of the factorial. Now, for asking the user how you want to do it, so we used an input statement over here. So we used an input function, then a statement to ask the user what kind of which numbers factorial do you want, and then whatever the user will input, that number will be converted into an integer. So let's say some user just wanted to try something and wrote 4.2. So instead of 4.2, that number will be rounded to 4. And that number will be saved to n. So while n is greater than 0, then calculation of factorial into factorial equals to factorial into n, then decrementing the value of n, and in the end printing the value of the factorial. So for this I gave the number 5 as well, and the factorial is 120 was printed. Now, a big difference between the if loop and the for loop, the the for loop and the while loop that are that should be kept in mind is that a for loop is to be used when you know the definite kind of iterations, when you know the ending condition of it. When you don't know the ending condition of it and you want to let's say print a lot of numbers, but you don't exactly know when you want to stop it, and you want a certain kind of condition exactly to make sure that you stop at certain point, then while loop has to be used. So uh, when you don't know the stopping condition, use a while loop, and when you know the stopping condition, use the for loop. Now we'll look at the conditional loop statements, another part of the loop. So in addition to basic loops, Python provides a loop control statements that allow you to customize the loop behavior. So starting with the break statement, starting with the break statement used to exit the loop prematurely based on a certain condition. So we have used a list of numbers from 1 to 10, then using the for loop and giving the for loop a condition within it. If number equals to 6, break, and, uh, and then print num. Now, whenever you so the for loop is going to print the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 normally, but as soon as the number 6 is met, it's going to stop its execution and come out of the loop. And because the next statement after the for loop, the whole for loop is a loop ended, so the message loop ended is going to be shown or printed. So break statements, they stops the execution of the for loop for the condition that it is um, presented to it. Next is the continue statement. So it skips the current iteration of the loop and proceeds to the next iteration. So let's say the numbers, we are using the number list from 1 to 5. So for numbers, using the for loop for numbers, for num in numbers, if the variable num equals to 3, continue and keep on printing the numbers. So when we execute this block of code, you can see that the output will not have the number 3 in it. So continue keyword helps us to skip that part of the iteration, whereas the break statement completely stops the execution of that part and comes out of the loop. So let's use a combined use of break and continue, both of them. So numbers equals to, we are using the list of numbers from 1 to 5 and then using a for statement. So for numbers in numbers, if the number is equal to 3, we continue. We use a continue keyword for skipping it. And then for breaking the statement, we'll be using number equals to 5 for it. So at number equals to 5, we are using the break statement to exit the loop before the loop has ended. So let's say instead of the numbers list being 1 to 5, it is 1 to 10. So the execution of the loop will not continue till 10, but it will end at number equals to 5 because of the break statement. Now you can also use an else statement with while loop or a else clause with the while loop for conditional loop statements. So the else clause can be used with a for loop, for or a while loop to specify a block of code that will be executed after the loop has finished normally. So for x equals to 1, using a while statement, while x is smaller than 3, print x and increment the value of x. And we will keep on incrementing the value of x till it's smaller than 3. So it's just 2. So let's see their executions. So first was the break statement, which helps us to end the loop before it's a normal ending, or help us end the loop prematurely. So for in numbers, if 6, if number equals to 6, break and print the number. Then comes the continue, which skips the current iteration of the loop and proceeds to the next iteration. So numbers equals to using the same list. No, sorry. We are using a different list of numbers for 1 to 5. And for a number, and then within the for loop, we are giving the condition number equals to 3 and continue after that. So you can see that when we execute this cell, it's printing 1, 2, skipping the 3 because of this condition, and then 4, 5. And in the end, printing this statement, which is outside the scope of the loop ended. Now the combination of a break and continue statement, both of them using this list. For num equals to 3, we are using the continue statements, so it skips the execution of 3 when it meets in the list, and then using the elif statement on num equals to 5 and break it. So it exits the loop when the number takes a value of 5. And when we execute this, you can see that 1, 2, 3 is kept because of continue, 4, and at 5 we are using a break statement, so 5 will not be printed and the execution of loop will be stopped before 5, and 5 will not be included. Now comes the else with while loop. So while x equals to 1, x is smaller than or equal to 3, printing the statement and incrementing the value of x. If none of these are used, the else statement is going to be, so when the execution of this is done, from starting from 1, then 2, and because the condition is at 3, it's going to stop its condition and an else statement is going to be executed. So we get 1, 2, and then the limit crossed message. Now comes the string operations. We have been using strings for for allocating used it while allocating it to a certain single variable or within a list and stuff. So we'll be using, we'll see what kind of string operations are there or commonly used. So we can use strings enclosed within single quotes and double quotes as well. And functionally they are both same and can be used interchangeably. But one of the case of using them can be if, let's say, that within a string you want to use the double quotes as showed here. So at that time you can use it in this interchangeable manner. So because we use a dialog within double quotes, you can use a single quotes with the string and have the dialog within string showcased with the double quotes. So you can also use string in this given manner. So because the triple quotes are used for doc string as mentioned in the previous session as well, you can use the triple quotes as well, and it can be valid too. Then in the last one, you can see that s equals to str, which is a like integer. In the last coding example, you saw that int function being used in order to convert the input from the user. The string function is used to convert a given piece into string. So let's say instead of hello, there was a number 5 or any kind of number, then that piece of number will or that number will be converted into string. Now you can use strings in a different manner, just like you will find some kind of familiarity with the range function that we have seen. So starting with the indexing of the string. Indexing in Python refers to the process of accessing individual elements or characters within a sequence, such as a string. Strings in Python are sequences of characters, and you can access specific characters in a string using indexing. Indexing is done using square brackets, and Python uses a zero-based indexing system, which means that the first element of the string will be started counting with 0 instead of 1, and it will continue further normally. So there are two types of indexing, positive indexing and negative indexing. So let's start with the positive indexing first. So let's say there is a string called hello world, and we want to access its first element. So to access its first element, we'll use a print statement, then the string variable itself s, and for square brackets using 0 in order to access the first element, which will print h, a capital H. The similar is for printing the second value within the string, which is e. Now comes the negative indexing. As in the range, we discussed about the stride, and its purpose was to use it to in reverse. So this is a similar kind of thing, that when you use a negative index, it will print from the back end of it, or the last. It will start printing the values from last to first. So because the -1, we are starting with -1. The last alphabet that is present in the string is hello world. and D. So D will be printed, and for -2 it will be L, and for -3 it will be R, and so on. Now comes the slicing operation. As we have seen the how to access the elements from start or from the from the end of it or in reverse. Now the slicing operation helps us to take a slice out of the string and only access a particular part of the string. So in Python, slicing is a technique used to extract a portion of a string, list, or any other sequence like data structure. When it comes to strings, slicing allows you to create a new string by specifying a range of indices to extract a substring from the original string. So, for example, we'll go again to the previous concept of simple indexing. So for index, the first example will print L, but the second example you can see that there are two arguments given in a way, or two numbers specified. So so the printing will start at index 2 and will stop before index 6. So while these examples are going, you can also try to execute it if it's possible for you. And we are going to anyway see the codes as well, or the output. Sorry, nothing, not the code. For the example 3, we have the same string, but with different the start, the end, as well as the stride values given. In example 2, it was only start and the end and values. And then for 4, we have the start and the stride values only, not the end values.
Can you show the execution for third one? How it will be?
Example 3, yeah, just a second. So this is the execution of third one, and for and LO will be the output to it.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So string examples to try. You can try these examples on your own. And also you can the other thing is that make 5 unique string slicing operations with your own strings. This is just to try and make sure that you are comfortable with the concept of string slicing and what to include and not. Now, now comes the editing and deleting strings. So, this is the piece of code that I want you guys to try on your own, and I hope by showing the execution of it, because there is a uh, like tuples, the strings are also immutable. So I wanted to try this thing. Now comes the concatenation of strings. the arithmetic operation in strings, the you can see that the a and b variables, they both of them have the string type values, and if we want to we use a addition operator with those two strings or those two variables, you can see that with it, with the output, it concatenates. It simply adds those strings with each other in a single string. And if we want to make it more readable, we can use the print statement below in order to make this. So you can use concatenation of strings with variables like these with arithmetic operator of plus. Now you can similar to this arithmetic operation, you can also multiply the number the strings with a certain kind of numbers. So you can guess what the and just by looking at the code what this do. So it's the print statement does. Just a second. So the print statement basically the print statement is having a string Python and then multiplying it by 15. It prints the string 15 times. So similarly, in the example 3, there is an asterisk as a string, and then multiplying the asterisk with 10, we are printing the asterisk 10 times. Then we'll be starting with some of the string methods that are present in Python. So first, string methods. Python provides many inbuilt string methods for common operations like converting to uppercase, lowercase, finding substrings, replacing, and more. So uppercase converts all the characters of the string into uppercase letters using upper function. So for example, text equals to hello world. And if we use the text dot upper with the text, it is going to capitalize all the sorry, not capitalize, it is going to convert all the text into uppercase. So you can see the output for hello world. Then comes the for lowercase, similar to upper, you can use the text or any variable dot lower, and it will lower all the uh, it will convert all the alphabets into the lowercase. Now comes the finding a substring within the strings. So let's say there is a string called hello world to this fabulous language. Now we are finding a substring, so we are using the find index variable and then using the variable dot find in order to find the world. Now when we print the find index, it is going to give us the index of the starting point of the word that we are trying to search. So at 7, it matches the word it matches the word. So 7 is our output. Now, even though I said that strings are immutable, but there is a function of replace, and you can use replace just the way we have accessed and used upper, lower, find. We can use any variable, whatever variable that you want to use, dot that function. So here we are uh, discussing replace. So s dot replace, and we want to change the word fabulous to awesome and then print it. So when we run the statement replace index, we'll get the change that we wanted uh, being reflected to the print statement, and we can see the change in the print statement that instead of fabulous, now awesome is the word that was replaced. Now comes formatting. The
Is
strings.
it replaces the exact match, or we can say the any case insensitive or case?
No, it will be case sensitive. So you will have to match the word. So in the example, so for find, you can see that I've used a capital W for the word world, right? So that will be the case. That so it's a case sensitive.
Is there any function for case insensitive where
Sorry.
for case insensitive function means I want to search any string matching the instead of case.
Uh, I think I, for this replace statements, I will say that you have to use both of them instead of being like fabulous, capital F and small f, both of them in separate ones in order to get it, if you want to do it that way. But we can also write a different program for case insensitive inputs.
Okay.
Yeah. So for string formatting, there are two ways that we can use the formats. First is using the F format and the format statements. So let's say there are two variables, name J and gender male. And if I want to print using the first F statements, F string formatting, so the print, and then make sure that uh, F is the starting point of the print statement before going to the double quotes. Uh, uh, Whereas in simple print statement, the double quotes are the starting point. And after that, we can use the placeholder for hi, my name is, and the name placeholder for making the name or the word appear J in that place, and then I am a gender, and then gender's placeholder appear in that place. The second way of it is hi, my name is, then the placeholder using the curly brackets, and I am a curly brackets. And in the end, using the format and giving it, and the format taking arguments for the name and gender both, it will appear in that order for the placeholders. Now comes the splitting the string. So split is a sentence into a split function. Basically, splits the sentence into tokens and and joining the and joining is something that we'll look further. But split, we'll have a look at the split right now. So let's say the string is hi, my name is Jay, and we are using a split function with it. So the output will show us, and you can see that each and every word within the string has been tokenized. Hi, my name is, and Jay. Now for join, it joins the statement, but before that you have to uh, give its a space in order to make those joins separate. So you can see that for join, hi, my name is Jay is again used, and the whole string has been joined. So next is finding the length of a string using the length function. Now, now our text is hello world with an exclamation mark at the end. We are finding the length of the text. So we are
One
using,
question. One
yes,
question
please.
on the last slide. Split function will ignore the comma where you have like high after high we have comma.
So I think it will only consider the words, not the comma. But I will give you the confirmed answer later.
Okay.
Yeah. So for starting the for strings length, we are using the text with a string hello world, and using the length variable to store the value of the length counted by, for the variable text, and then printing the value of length. So you can see that it comes out to be 13. Now let's look at the code. So these are some of the for the string functions we started. So these are some of the things that I want you guys to try on your own. Then I also mentioned about trying to change the value of a string at index 0 with capital H. But because strings are immutable, those cannot be changed and it will throw you an error. So strings in Python are immutable, meaning once you create a string, you cannot change its content. You can create new string based on the original string, but the original string remains unchanged. So you can see that when I tried to run this cell, I got an error. Now comes the concatenation of strings. We use the plus sign in order to uh, concatenate two variables containing strings. So first, because we simply concatenated it, it will simply add the contents of the strings. But if you want to make it more readable, you can use a double quotes and a space within that double quotes in order to make it more readable. Now, the using the asterisk or a multiplication of strings. So if we want to print Python 15 times, we can simply just use a asterisk 15 in order to print it. But you can see that it's not printing with spaces. So here we used a space more. So it printed with the spaces. Similar is the printing of asterisk when multiplied by 10. And you got 10 asterisks. Now text is changing the text for into upper cases. So for that we use the upper method, or upper method. So we use the text dot upper and saved it to upper text. The same was for lower text. There are two alphabets H and W, and we are saving the changes that we are making to the string into lower text variable, and using the text dot lower over here and printing the value. So you can see for upper, it uppercased all the values of the all the contents of the string, and for lowercase it lowered all the value. It used the lowercase for the string. Then for a string, we have this string, and we wanted to find the word world. So you can see that it found the word world on the 7th index when we printed this. Then comes the replace. So replace helps us to change the values of it. So instead of fabulous, we wanted the word awesome to be replaced with it with. So we used to replace the first word that is present in the string and needed to be replaced, and second word, the word that we need to be replaced it with. So hello world to this awesome language. So the awesome has been the change has been reflected. Then we discussed about two ways of formatting the string using the F type formatting and formatting. So first was for F. So F starts with print, and then it starts with F, and then the whole simple execution of oh, the common execution of the print with double quotes, while having the placeholders for name and gender when wherever you want to make them appear. The another one is for using the format function. You can simply, while using the format function, you can simply use the curly braces at the places you want your variables to appear, and in that order you place the variables in within the format for the arguments in that order, and it will appear in that order. Then comes splitting into a sentence into tokens. So as Saurabh asked, that the high contained a comma within it also. So because a comma was same as high, it contained as it was it has appeared in the tokenization form with comma. The high word has appeared in tokenization with comma. Now the after splitting, you can see the value of the output that we get for the splitting this string. Now joining the string, we have the string, or we have this tokens. When we join the string using the space, you can see that the tokens have been concatenated into a single string, and because we have used a separator over here as a space, it is used this. You can experiment with the values over here and see what you get. Now find the length of the string using the length function. for calculating the number of characters, including the space. So we have the string hello world. Then we are using the length text within the length.
You have 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Stop after that. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Length, and then predict the value of length, and we get it 50. We get the output of 13 for the count of number of characters that are present in the string, or for finding the length of the string. So to summarize the session of session 03, we started with conditional statements. We started with if, which executes a block of code if a condition is met as true. If, and then we move to if else statements, it which executes a block of code if condition is true, and another block of code if it is false. Then comes the elif condition, which tests additional conditions if previous if or elif conditions are false. Then comes the loop. We discussed about the for and while loop. The for loop iterates over a sequence or a range of numbers. While loop repeats a block of code as long as a condition is met true. Then comes the conditional loop statements. For continue, we used which is when using the keyword continue, it skips the current iteration and proceeds to the next iteration of the loop. Whereas for break, it exits the loop prematurely, regardless of the loop condition. Then comes the string operations, the positive indexing and negative indexing for accessing the characters of string using the positive or negative indices. Then comes the slicing of the string for accessing a substring from a whole string using the start, stop, and an optional step value or the stride value. Then comes editing of the string. Strings are immutable in Python, so any modifications creates a new string. Now finding a string with it, or finding a substring within a string. Find is used, and then comes the we also discussed about the replace in order to replace a word. Then comes the string length for finding this length of the string, counting the characters present, including the spaces. So this was the end of session 03. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jamit and Saurabh and others. So what I'm going to do is at this time, I don't know. I'll just stop the recording and then you wait. If you can still talk, you go ahead. Okay, let me stop the recording.
Sure.
Why don't you do it from your end?